Shabbat Shalom. I read a post from Rabbi Lawrence Kellerman, who is the professor of education at Neve Yerushalayim College of Jewish Studies for Women in Jerusalem. And he shares a story about for how 13 years he followed around this devout sect of Judaism in Jerusalem. This sect tried to live as our ancient ancestors did. And so it was like, he said it was like going into, a sociology experiment and getting to flash back to the past. And he shared about this beautiful evening when the Rabbi was sharing a teaching and all of the students gathered around, and the Rabbi opened the Torah and read, "See that I have placed before you life and good, and death and evil, and I am commanding you to love." The elderly scholar paused, closed his eyes deep in thought. Then, with his eyes closed, he repeated, "I've placed before you life, and I am commanding you to love." Then he brought the book closer to his eyes, squinted at the tiny print, and read from the 11th century commentary of Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra. This verse teaches us that life is for love. The Talmudic master closed his eyes again and repeated, "Life is for love." So that section of Torah that the master quoted is the Torah portion we read on the Shabbat before Rosh HaShanah, and it is so central to what Judaism means that our Reform forebears made this the Torah reading we read on Yom Kippur as well. So perfect to talk about it today. It teaches us that we have choices, we can choose life, and that life is for love. So tonight I want to talk to you about love. And so obviously, I'm going to first share a story about hate. In particular, my hate for a coworker many years ago. Just a side note, I am not dumb enough to talk smack about a coworker on the bima, okay? So obviously, what is not to love? Okay. So this person was hired, and to be brutally honest, I didn't like him. I thought he was fake. I thought he wasn't very smart. I thought I could do a better job. So I was really frustrated, and someone that I looked at like a mentor told me that if I wasn't going to quit my job, the best thing I could do is lean into a strength of mine. One of my strengths is love. Usually, I love everyone, which is why hating someone was so hard for me. I had never had that before. My mentor told me to love my coworker. And when he said that, I found myself asking a very religious question, which is, how can I make myself feel love? Twice in the Torah, we are commanded to love. We are commanded to love God, and we are commanded to love our neighbor as ourselves. But here is the challenge. How can the Torah command us to love? Love is a feeling. Isn't it something we can't control? Biblical scholar Jacob Milgram answers, the answer is simply that the verb ahav means not only an emotion or attitude, but also deeds. Roy Gain writes, if love were only a feeling to fall into, how could the Lord hold anyone accountable for having it? Whether we naturally like a person or not, God requires us to treat them according to the principle of love. So love is not first and foremost a feeling. Love is an action. Love is a choice. Love is what we do. The Musar masters put it this way: the heart follows the deed. If we want to feel love, we begin by doing acts of love. Rachmal wrote, external motions stimulate internal ones. Or for us lay folk, fake it till you make it. If we act like we love someone, our hearts will eventually follow. So, I bought the guy gifts. I know. When I was getting water, I would get him water. When he spoke, I paid attention. And when he said something unkind, I would give him the same excuses I would give a friend. And eventually, I was able to find things I really did like about him. And guess what? Loving him did this amazing thing. Being able to love him made me love myself more as a person. In Leviticus, we are taught, you shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge. Love your fellow as yourself. I am the Lord. It tells us what not to do, not to hate. And it tells us what to do. Love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Give them the same grace you show yourself. Just as if we are kind of being jerks, we have excuses, right? I didn't sleep well last night. I was in a hurry. We should extend these same graces to our judgments of others. And this, by the way, is a two-way street. While most of us are nicer to ourselves than we are to others, some of us need to stop beating ourselves up and treat ourselves as we would a friend. Would we stay friends with someone who picked on every minor imperfection? So why do we do that to ourselves? And again, the more generous we are with love, the more love we end up having. It is not a scarce resource. The late chief rabbi, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, teaches, when it comes to spiritual goods, as opposed to material goods, the more I share, the more I have. If I share my knowledge or faith or love with others, I won't have less. I may even have more. So think about it like you're lighting somebody else's candle with your own. When you light somebody else's candle, when you give that light away, there is just more light in the room. Giving away doesn't diminish what you have. Before I go any further, I do want to admit that talking about love is a little bit schmaltzy. But today, love and acting in love is anything but common. It's radical, it's countercultural, and our world needs it more than ever. We are living in a strange time, a time when bad behavior is rewarded, a time of blatant hypocrisy, a time when we willfully put ourselves under surveillance and watch strangers on our phones, a time when computer algorithms are shaping our likes, our lives, and our identities. In his book, Nexus, anthropologist Yuval Harari teaches that when creating the algorithms used to promote content on YouTube, TikTok, you name it, the AI needed to be given a goal. It could have been given any goal, by the way. It could have been given the goal of more diverse experiences, promoting mental health, but the chosen goal for the algorithm is to keep people online and engaged as long as possible. That's how hours slip away when you scroll. The algorithms soon discovered that the easiest way to increase engagement is by triggering strong emotions like hate, anger, and fear. He contends that while tech companies may not have set out to spread hatred or destroy democracy, their profit-driven focus on user engagement led their algorithms to amplify outrageous, hateful, and conspiratorial content. Hate keeps us glued to our screen. The result? Even when we're searching for benign videos, the algorithm will eventually feed us ugly, hate-filled content. The more hate, the more rage, the more we stay glued. And so people have now risen to prominence and have even been elected to office for saying the most outlandish things, for spewing hate, for getting clicks. There is danger to this, and we are seeing it. The unraveling of our social fabric, a race to the bottom in terms of behavior, more and more people being radicalized online, both liberals and conservatives. And it becomes harder and harder to know what is true and what is real. When shock is rewarded, there seems to be no end to shocking behavior. When hate gets you followers, you end up leading with hate. But hate is easy and hate is cheap. When we bond with others over mutual hate, our connection is shallow and not worth very much. In her book, Braving the Wilderness, Brené Brown talks about these kinds of connections. She calls it common enemy intimacy. She says, common enemy intimacy is counterfeit connection and the opposite of true belonging. If the bond we share with others is simply that we hate the same people, the intimacy we experience is often intense, immediately gratifying, and an easy way to discharge outrage and pain. It is not, however, fuel for real connection. It is fuel that runs hot, burns fast, and leaves a trail of polluted emotion. And if we live with any level of self-awareness, it's also the kind of intimacy that can leave us with the intense regrets of an integrity hangover. Did I really participate in that? Is that moving us forward? Am I engaging in quite literally the exact same behavior I find loathsome in others? And I think about our world right now, how we keep dividing into us versus them, and often it's rage that binds us. But rage does not give our lives meaning. As Brown says, it's hot, intense, and fleeting. Think about all those rage-based movies where the entire person's purpose is to get vengeance, and then when they do, their life no longer has meaning. And that's because what really gives our lives meaning is love. So what happens when we let love lead? Imagine what kind of a world we would have when our default is love. We would recycle that can. We would make choices that prioritize health of all instead of our own convenience. We would realize that two consenting adults loving and committing their lives to one another has no ill effects on others, and either celebrate them or leave them be. We would want to speak to those who think differently than we do because we would be curious. We would be more eager to learn how to not harm others, more open to forgiveness. We wouldn't stomach the gun violence in our schools. We would treat everyone with dignity. Instead, we live in a world where we're experiencing a crisis of loneliness, climate collapse, school shootings so common people may not even notice anymore. A world where our leaders on both sides spew hate. A world with wars. A world where we deny the humanity of others and try and censor their words. Our world needs love right now. If I could do anything, it would be to give you all a big hug. Love is the most powerful tool we have to push back against all those negative feelings. It's the biggest tool we have to solve the problems of the world. And as Rabbi Ibn Ezra stated, life is for love. Or as God says in the Tana V'dai Eliyahu, my children, what do I seek from you? I seek no more than you love one another and honor one another. So in this new year of 5786, be radical, be countercultural, lead with love. Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom.